Anyway, so since everyone is settled down, I'm told that we are not having a panel discussion now and that the floor is open for questions. So we have volunteers roaming around with mics. If you have a question, please feel free to ask.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Alok, and this question is for Mr. Karthik. Sir, Infibeam has a very unique model that it didn't try to raise any money from the venture capitalists. So my question is how difficult it was in the very beginning to scale up. Now we are very glad that IPO is around the corner, but initially it must have been like very difficult to even attract talent. So on a generalized note, for founders, there is a trade-off between money that you can raise from private equity and ownership. So how do people manage that?
Okay. Am I audible? Great. Yeah, Infibeam has been self-funded so far, and we have grown significantly in the last 5-6 years. There has been a huge amount of activity in this e-commerce space as such. Because of private equity capital which is available in the market. So yeah, there's a lot of competition. It is difficult to grow, but we have made a conscious choice of not losing money while actually keeping our business fundamentals very strong. We believe that the e-commerce industry is a very, very long game. If you look at any other country, the overall internet industry itself is about 20 years old, right? I mean, 90s to 95, it is actually taken shape. So it's a very long game, right? So we are here for the long haul. I mean, the next 15, 20, 30 years, you will still see Infibeam around. That is for sure, and that is what we are building for. So just by discounting and getting the traffic and transaction, you can build the customer base, but the customer loyalty is still not there, right? If I may ask, how many of you really shop today just because it is a brand which is actually offering you a thing? And how many of you actually shop for price? For price? So that answers your question, right? So the price is never going to be the differentiator, right? You have to build a significant value and a sustainable business. That is what we are after. And that is why we have taken the fundraising through an IPO round, where we will be able to actually show sustained growth over a long period of time. The advantage with us also is that Vishal, who is the co-founder and CEO, had been with Amazon for about 7-8 years, while it was grossly in red. So during the 99 to 2006 time frame, I mean, he had spent a lot of time with Amazon. And 2003 or 2004 is actually the time frame when Amazon turned profitable. Retail is not the place where really the money is, right? Retail will always be cutthroat competition, really. So services business is what we are actually after, which is what I think our strategy is also going forward. So yeah, that's how we are surviving. Acquiring talent, of course, it is difficult, but I think through this fundraising round that we are doing through IPO, a lot of things will get sorted out that way. A good advantage that has been with us is that, in our co-founding team, we had 12 members, really, right? 12 co-founders, and all of them are entrepreneurs. So, there's a huge amount of understanding, there's a huge amount of, good talent. We have been able to drive a lot of decisions very, very meticulously and diligently, and execute on them very, very well. So that's been our secret sauce probably. I hope I've been able to answer your question.
If I can interject, at what price do you sell your, let's say, your consumer electronics vis-a-vis the Flipkarts and the Snapdeals and all?
It is competitive. It is competitive.
Same price?
It is
similar price.
So 80 to 90% of the times we'll be competitive because not everyone discounts.
How is your business model sustainable?
As in?
I mean, If you're giving the same discounts and the same
No, so
margins
80
free
to
on
90%
delivery
of the
and all that.
times we are actually competitive, which means that on a per unit basis we don't incur heavy losses. Post, yeah, I mean we have been very careful in terms of a lot of things, right? So COD returns, yeah, COD returns, and then the policies that we have. It may not be the best for a consumer today. Over a period of time, we may evolve it to a level where the customer experience is much better, and as par with international players as well.
Can I actually add something? This is one of those questions that I always get, even as an investor. I have a great idea, but how do I get the money? I have no capital. Where do I go and hunt for VCs? And it's very tempting, especially in today's day and age, because there are so many VCs out there with so much of capital. It's very important to just think about what you're building, and do you really need money for it? So when I started Printbell, for example, the easiest thing for me would have been to go and raise money, because I came from that world, right? It was very easy for me to know who to go to and ask for money. But I said, look, can this business actually sustain itself? And if you think about any fundamental business, you think about the old school brands, you think about the Tatas, or even why are they still surviving today? Because they offer a value proposition, right? They offer something that consumers like and want to go back to. And you can actually prove that. Somebody referred to the MVP earlier. You can actually get to an MVP with very, very less capital. And once you get there, then raising money is almost like a byproduct of what you want to build, as opposed to the starting point of what will get you there. And I think that's very important to resist that and focus on customers coming back. Are 2/3 of your customers coming back for a second and third order? And if they're coming back, why are they coming back? If they're coming back for reasons that are easily replicable by competitors, then maybe you should think more about your model. But if these things are core to how you can operate your business, then investors will come after you. You don't have to go to them. So I think focus should be on creating that solid foundational business first.
My name is Manoj. Nowadays, all the startups are becoming extremely technology driven. So how do VCs evaluate your technology platform and the kind of technologies you are using while investing?
I think the biggest technology for a startup idea is the human brain. And it's your hunger to achieve what's in your brain. So when I was an investor, even today, when somebody comes up to me and says, I have an idea to change the world. I have this thing that nobody has done. This thing will change the face of how people do this. It's probably not true. Somebody in some corner of the world has already thought of that idea and has already done it. So I think for me, I've always looked at but I think get the team, get the belief that you can get this idea through, and that's really what investors look at. The technology, the platform, what's your, really your 5-year vision in terms of revenues you're going to generate. Nobody really, you need that to put it in an Excel sheet, but people invest in people. I think that's...
Hello, my name is Suman. So, actually, most of us are like here engineers, and in engineering we learn how to solve like known problems, structured problems. Also in MBA we use maybe different kind of frameworks, but in a startup the culture is quite different. It's uncertain. We do not know what will come up. So, what will be your suggestions? Like how should MBA graduates prepare themselves to work in startups, maybe?
Hello. Yeah. So there is a lot of uncertainty. There is no certainty at a startup. You just have to deal with it. So if you go thinking that there will be a lot of structure, you will know what your typical day will be like. What am I going to do, say 2 months down the line? What will be my career path 6 months down the line? Then it's not for you. That's how it is. If you're joining at a very, very early stage, you have to build your role. You have to build what you'll do. You have to do everything, and while you're doing everything, you identify that, okay, this is something I'm really good at, and then you eventually end up leading that thing and then building that up for the startup. But there's absolutely no structure. That's what my thought is. There is no structure.
You know, just to add to that, so you know, which is why we're saying the audience, or for example, you know, when we say experienced B school grad, that really is the, you know, somebody of that stature is uniquely poised. So what we're saying is you've worked in the past, you are used to the ambiguities of actual workplace, you know, the various kind of situations, the outside of you know, boundary kind of workspace, and then you do an MBA, which kind of gives you a structured framework to think. You marry the two, and then you know that you are a little more equipped to deal with ambiguities in a startup. If you're not so, then I think you are more, you know, within borders kind of a person. So I think it's very important for you to know yourself whether or not you're okay. So for example, when we have reviews, you know, at Private, invariably coming out saying question paper change ho gaya. Because you know, we go trying to solve a business problem, you kind of create 3 more. And you know, this is the way of life, this is norm, because there is just nothing set in black and white. You're living a permanent gray and you're solving through it. So I think it's very individual centric. Somebody who is used to that uncertainty is here to excel in a startup kind of a setup.
And I think, so just to add to what she said, that I think there's one framework which applies, like, you know, if you know that, then you know, you'll be good in a startup. It's called common sense. That's it. Like, that's it. So you don't need to know how to, you need to know where you want to get to and have a very, very clear visualization that this is what on a steady state my business should look like. You don't need to know how to get, you need to know the next 2 steps, that's it. And how do you get to know the step after that? Common sense, that's it. And I think, you know, if you have that, then you're golden.
It is also said that you must learn to fail fast and learn faster. I mean, what does this, in real life, how do you define failure and when to stop and when to start some, you know, switch or pivot or go to the adopt and then different path?
So my CEO said to me, so I come from an economics background, so cost price needs to be less than selling price is ingrained into my head. So when I got into Coupon Dunya, I was slightly more conservative, came with a more conservative mind frame, and when you're building out the offline business, which I mean, I can elaborate at a, offline with you guys. When I started building it out, it requires a feet on street model. It requires people to actually go out there and enlist merchants on, with us. So I was being conservative. I hired 3-4 people in each city, and we were adding merchants at the rate of about 15, 20, 30, 50 per city. And he says, no, you need to go faster, and you need to hire more people. I said, well, we will start spending too much. He says, well, I don't want to reach 12 months down the line and be midway. I'd rather know whether this business is working or not working. So hire more people. If this business is destined to fail, it'll fail faster and we'll save more money. So I think that is what fail faster to me is. Have conviction in it. So here's a prime example of super conviction. Sorry?
How do you determine failure?
When selling price is way below the cost price.
And you don't see the end of the tunnel.
And you don't see the end of the tunnel, yes.
Hi, I'm Aditya. Yeah, for the high-tech industry context, there is always there is a cycle. Initially, there is a time in which there is funding, and then the point comes when there is consolidation, and then the focus is on profitability. So when will that point be reached for Indian e-commerce? I mean, what do you guys estimate?
So just to answer that, you guys are in e-commerce, I'm not, but I'm a sort of enabler business, if I may. So currently, there's a huge opportunity. Only about 30 to 40 million Indians are shopping online. Only 1% of retail takes place online. So there is a huge amount of growth opportunities. Still, the headroom for growth is massive. So there, business always moves in cycles. No matter what you're doing, there's always going to be a cycle, and we shouldn't be afraid of it. I think we just need to build businesses which are sustainable, think sensibly, and I think no one can say, I wouldn't add, none of us will be theorizing if we say it will be 3 years, 5 years, we don't know. But all I can say is the headroom for growth is ginormous.
So I'd like to add here, see the current e-commerce, the way it is going, there are huge losses that people are actually incurring. And investors are also very confident because, the headroom for growth is really, really large. If you look at, other comparative markets, if you look at the US and the China markets, India is more or less, kind of replicating the China market itself, right? And today, if you look at it, Alibaba or anyone else is upwards of about 250 billion or 330 billion, if I am not wrong, in terms of, the values that they actually transact through their systems, which is enormous, right? India's total market size today itself is very, very large in terms of retail. And the way things are going ahead, right, what is happening is that a lot of habit changing activities are happening really. So the generation today, our kids and, people will by default will shop online going forward, right? So for example, in our case, till IRCTC really came in, we were actually standing in the queue for railway ticket booking, right? How many of you would really go to a railway station today for booking tickets? Anyone? So that is the difference.
Probably just fly.
Yeah, so that is the difference, right? So if 20 years or 15 years later I ask the same question, that how many of you really go to physical shop? It may be really this answer again, probably, right? It may not be killed completely, but that is the response that we may get from people who are really connected. And that is the growth that we are actually looking at. And hence people are kind of investing immensely because the growth potential is really, really large.
One thing that's always baffled me is, people talk about internet businesses, e-commerce businesses. The internet is not the business. I mean, you look at this panel here, Infibeam is a retail business, Delivery is a logistics business, this is a furniture business, printing business. So at the heart of any enabled business is a core business. And I think when you evaluate companies, you need to understand what that core business is and how will that core business make money using the internet in a way that's different from what the historical industry has done. And I think that's the distinction people need to make. It's okay to be focused on, I want to build scale. But you've got to know what your core value proposition for the industry that you're operating in has to be. I think that's the important distinction.
And in fact, so related to that, so for example, like you just mentioned, right, it's actually a business. So when we talk about e-commerce that's creating a lot of buzz, a lot of us really need to know what is it that we are signing up for. So e-commerce is really the, the channel. But at the end of it, it's not the glamorous business that we are talking. I mean, for example, furniture. I mean, supply chain to my mind is really more the functional skill or trade that one would need. For example, if you're in e-tailing. So that's really the differentiator. Not so much of price, but what's your network? What is your supply or your unit cost economics? In fact, just to answer your question, I think we are at the cusp of consolidation and profitability, because profitability is definitely. A lot of us are feeling the pinch. We are going for a change of models, inventory-led versus marketplace versus the other models. So I think in my mind, we are at that stage. And just to, I kind of agree with his point that internet-based business is a little fluffy. At the end of it all, it's just a business. It's actually a hardcore product, life, service business, with e-commerce being a channel.
Hello, I'm Tarun. I have two questions actually. First is that as we know that the culture in startups is where you get a lot of freedom to take your decisions, and once you succeed, the money starts flowing, and then this freedom is start to fade away. So how you cope up with this change? And my second question is that how you guys see programs like ours as a in industry to means for your hiring purposes, and how you see students who have experience already for your, as your company employees.
So while on your first question on the culture bit, right? So there is no denying the fact that in a startup, you're definitely much more empowered. So in a typical corporate or a multinational, you have a protocol, right? Most of the time, that protocol kind of translates into a mindset or a culture where you may not want to question the norm. You pretty much follow in line. But in a startup, you come with an open mind. If you can kind of if you can try to prove the test or whatever your hypothesis or whatever, it's just a survival of the fittest. So 10 other people within the same startup could have an idea or could have a enthusiastic initiative to add to it. Ultimately, it's what makes the cut. Ultimately, it's what delivers. So you prove yourself. If you don't, you're out. So it's the survival of fittest as it is with any other with any other setup. On the second question on how do you again, I think at least for the company that, Pepperfry that I'm representing, extremely, even as of today, while I speak, most of our middle management or senior management would come from the premier schools, fair amount of experience, exposure in the past background. And I think, that's the way to go to. So we're looking at, again, generalists across industries, across B schools, who pretty much, they have transferable skills and they would pretty much deliver to the need of the hour.
Hi, my name is Amit, and I would like to know, like, whenever we are thinking of a startup or starting our own business, we get a lot of ideas. So how you compare all these ideas, how you evaluate the ideas before taking your decision or before investing your money? Do you use any framework or strategy before making your decision? Thanks.
A little bit of research is definitely required in terms of what is the idea all about, what is the business opportunity really, will it be sustained for a long period of time, let's say 5 to 10 years, right? What is the opportunity size? See, a startup is not really easy to do. I mean, it requires a huge amount of commitment, hard work, and a lot of sacrifices as well. You may have to weigh the opportunity cost really, right? That if it is only let's say 100 crore business, would you really, care about it? If it is 100 million or $100 billion business, then, it's worth the time, effort, energy that you'll actually put in there, right? So if it is a large unaddressed market is what you would ideally want to take up as a challenge, which has at least an opportunity to, get a significant amount of work done there as well as the returns that you would probably expect. It is always not about the money as well, because, a lot of people do it for the passion, because they want to just build something, right? There's no right or wrong answer to that, but while evaluating businesses, you may want to really evaluate the opportunity size and, the time frame that you would want to get associated with that.
Just to add to your question, the basic steps that I'll just tell you that I followed when I started my first business. Talk to all the stakeholders. Is this a business that would be useful to you? If this service existed, would this be useful to you? Put down on paper what is your financial commitment to it. Figure out if you'll be able to bootstrap to get to a point where you will be. So there are several routes you can follow. You can either be like a lifestyle business. You understand a lifestyle business? A lifestyle business is something that from the start, from the word get-go, starts generating you enough money to keep you happy. Then there is, or you can go down the route of, really raising startups. So how will you get to that point? Figure out, can you bootstrap and get to that point? What will help you raise that money? There are several books available that you can read. It's called something called Lean Startup Methodology, which you can kind of look into. But these are all theories, but definitely do your research, do well. Just to kind of add to what Karthik said, I wouldn't really look at a large market. If a large market exists, then you can be rest assured that 10,000 people doing it already. So if I try to do something in selling electronics online today, I'd be a fool. Try and look for a market which you think will be large 3 years from now, and try and get into something like that. I think that would be what I would do.
I think one thing I would add is, and I was just saying this to somebody in the break, that the idea is only the 1%. Okay, the 99% is the execution and how you bring that idea to life. Don't get just stuck in over-evaluating the idea as well. So I think what Karthik mentioned and what Ankita mentioned, you have to take steps towards execution already, but also have the belief that the idea is just a starting point, and whether that idea can become successful will depend a lot on your belief and the kind of effort you put in to be agile enough when you figure out what the nuances are as you dive into it. You just have to swim in the water sometimes to figure out how cold it is, right? It's one of those things. So that would be only my one point to that.
Thank you. Yeah, going back to the theme, as people who have been there, and we see all of you are very young, just one question I have for all of you is that as I would say as well-wishers, as friends, because I think we know each other personally now, what would be your advice to our students? Do you really think they should take a plunge? Do you think that there's uncertainty? Would you advise? I thought, this is something which we really need to know.
Hell yes. Honestly, there is no better feeling than sitting in your office at 9 o'clock at night when you've had 10,000 frustrations and irritations because you're trying to start something, but you get that one email, that one phone call from a customer which says, hey, I loved what I got today, and I loved the service, I loved the product, and you will just feel that your life means something. And I think that's the beauty with being in an environment where you're creating stuff and you're really building something of your own, and that feeling is irreplicable according to me. So even people who work at Vistaprint, there have been a couple who've come up to me and said, hey Nilesh, I want to leave because I have this idea. I said, go, like now. It's okay if there is disruption in my organization to figure